Mm-hmm.
Like, you ever scratch the bottom of porcelain, like the not glazed part, and it gives you that weird chill you feel in your teeth?
Yeah.
That's what I'm feeling right now as you're talking about circus peanuts.
I feel it in my ears, actually.
Yeah.
Like,
Ugh.
I'm like super hypersensitive to sound. I
Really?
don't know if you've ever noticed when we go movies together.
I literally wrote this down because I wanted to bring it up.
So for me personally, I'm so sensitive to sound that if something's a little too loud, I will put my hands over my ears.
Okay, that's not what I was thinking about. What I was thinking about is you and me, you're my only friend that likes horror. So you're the only friend that I see horror movies with, besides my brother Anthony.
Mm-hmm.
And I've noticed that when we see scary movies, when something scary happens, I'll cover my eyes, but you'll cover your ears and continue looking at the screen. And I've never asked you about it, but I find that fascinating. Why do you cover your ears and not your eyes?
Well, I mean, gory stuff freaks me out.
Yeah.
But,
like we saw Midsummer, which was super gory. And when I would close my eyes or cover my eyes, you would put your fingers in your ears.
Yeah, because I'm sure people have written about this, but like in horror movies, the scary thing is heightened by sound.
Yeah,
all the time.
The fright beat. The
brum.
Yeah.
Right? It's like building slowly, and then the sound gets louder, so that you're being assaulted by your eyes and your ears.
I get it.
But
if you see the image pop out, that won't get you if you're diluting the sound. You feel brave to look at the screen with your.
I wouldn't even call it brave. I'm just like, my first instinct is it's too loud and I need to cover my ears. I've been noticing this about myself for the last year. Really?
How do you feel about ambulances?
Oh, they freak me out.
I work with somebody who they cover their ears when there's like a cop siren or an ambulance.
Yeah, it goes right through my ear.
Huh.
And it in the south, we live in New York City. I go to Manhattan for work.
Yeah.
Being on the subway rattling and people talking.
Oh yeah.
Like it's kind of like I'm trying to figure this out, and I'm gonna go to a doctor and find out like what's going on with me.
What's up with it?
But when something's too loud, it's kind of like, you ever watch a cartoon and a character is like in a bell and then they hit the bell and they're still shaking? That's what I feel. But it's not like I'm not ringing, but I feel like my whole head is like kind of vibrating in a bad way.
How is your sense of smell, taste, and vision? Are they diminished? Therefore, super.
I'm not a superhero. I don't know I know where you're going with this. I'm not a daredevil, but
can you see through sound? The reflection of sound, like a hummingbird.
Technically that means he's not blind. Has anyone ever pointed that out?
Well, no. It means he is blind, but he can geolocate.
He's geolocating, but what you see on the screen when you watch,
it's represented to us as like.
I always thought that's what he saw.
I guess no, it's probably not. I have no idea.
Well, because
I never watched the show.
I haven't watched the show. I'm thinking of that awful Ben Affleck movie.
That's what I'm thinking of, too.
Oh, okay. Oh, so we're on the same track.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I always assumed that just meant he kind of echolocated, but it showed, like, where the thing is. So I'm like, that's kind of cheating.
He's not really blind. He's not.
Okay, so we're agreeing that Daredevil's a phony.
Yeah, he's full of shit.
He's a fake... fake handy capable superhero.
Yeah.
It's like you're blind but not
valor.
really.
Stolen valor, sir.
Can we get a real blind superhero, please?
This is Pop Culture Man Children, PCMC. I'm Mike Bongiorno. This is Halloween 2019, Act 4. There's been 4 acts. It's been Halloween all month here at PCMC. And I'm joined today by noxious Nadia Kader.
Is that what you're doing for everybody?
Yeah, everybody gets an adjective.
I'm so...
Like The Simpsons.
I'm so honored.
Yeah. I was driving over here. I was like, what's a good one? I couldn't think of one.
Well, because Nasty Nadia kind of either sounds like a children's story or a weird porn name.
Yeah, it didn't ring me as horror enough. No. I thought about Killer Nadia Kader. That could also work.
Killer Kader.
I
like the alliteration of that.
Yeah.
I'll be noxious. I'll be whatever you want, Mike.
You really have a choice to go with the first or last name. Or you could do like James L. Brooks and be like naughty bat. I don't know what I'm talking about.
You're trying to remember the credits of Treehouse of Horror and it's not coming to you.
I used the wrong example because James L. Brooks is always James Hell Brooks.
Yeah.
So I started that sentence off really in the wrong place, and then it was like driving 60 on a road that ends. That's what that just was. Well, Nadia, I'm glad to have you here. I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
Off the show. How have you been?
I feel good. How are you?
You look good. I like the way your hair is now.
Yeah, I turned 30 this year.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I'm still alive.
Dirty 30s.
Dirty 30s, which really just means you're slightly more secure than your 20s.
Yeah, I've been liking my 30s way more than my 20s.
I'm really looking forward to that because the 20s were horrible. But I shaved part of my head.
Yep.
New look. I did it right
Midlife crisis much?
It's actually, I don't know, maybe midlife crisis. I actually had a thought like, I want to look gayer. How can I disappoint my mom even further?
Well, you are literally no bit wearing a flannel shirt right now.
This was also part of that transition process.
Part of this effort to look more gay. But, I mean this as a compliment. I feel like you've always looked gay.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody who would see you and be like, oh, she's into dudes. You give off a vibe.
A queer vibe?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I do, but I have
even the frames of your glasses.
These are new. So I just pick every gay frame you
Yeah, you walk in and you're like, have the gayest frame.
Thank you.
You're like on a scale from the lead singer of Weezer to Elton John. Can I get something in there? I don't think Rivers Cuomo was gay, but he's a hipster.
Oh, I thought you were going with like Rivers Cuomo is a type of lesbian, and then Elton John is like the typical lesbian.
Okay, maybe from Rachel Maddow to Elton John. That's the spectrum.
That's unfortunately Rachel Maddow is in there. I can't even really think of right now. I'm blanking on famous lesbians. Other than I guess Kristen Stewart.
That says something about the world, doesn't it?
Yes. All you lesbians listening, please go out and be famous, but for like good things, so that when two people are on a podcast and they think lesbian things, something will come up.
One.
Right. Yes.
You could just have a go-to lesbian celebrity.
Yeah. I mean, I just answered Kristen Stewart, so I'm not doing that
I bet a lot of America would say Ellen.
Oh!
Today we're discussing the anthology horror film VHS and the other anthology horror film VHS 2. We're not going to talk about VHS Viral, which was the third one, because we haven't seen it. And
we both dropped the ball on that one.
That's the truth. It's been a hard month. I don't know why I decided I'd do 4 Halloween episodes. What the hell was I thinking?
You're a very ambitious man.
Do you know what it's like to work an 8-hour day and have to come home and watch a Jamie Kennedy movie? It's a nightmare. And VHS, it's anthology films, but then it became an anthology show. Was it on Netflix? No. Was it on Hulu? No. Where did this show ever air? Snapchat. It was a Snapchat series. It had 4 episodes or mini episodes or whatever the fuck.
That you're blowing my mind right now.
Right? It happened last year. Did you hear about it? Did you know about it?
No.
Anyway, so we're talking about VHS and VHS 2. So these are anthology films. I guess the way we should go about it is we'll do VHS 1 first, obviously, but I guess we'll do a little synopses of each story and then kind of give our take on it. But there's also wraparound stories, which we can talk about as well. Both movies have a wraparound story, which sort of like sets up the little stories.
Right.
And these movies are bananas. There's also tons of directors and stuff because it's basically a bunch of short films put together. You watched it on my behest, right? Or did you? I don't remember. Did you watch it before and say, "Have you ever seen it?" And I was like, "Yeah." I don't remember how this happened.
I honestly, I don't remember either. I can't. It might have been like me bringing up like hey, I have this new thing I'm watching. And then you were like, have you seen the VHS movies? And then we decide later. Because I feel like I wouldn't watch these movies unless you told me to.
They are... If I had to paint the whole... I can't say the whole series because I've only seen 2 of the 3. But if I had to paint the series with a broad brush and not get into the intricacies of each story, I would say they're bro-y.
Okay, yeah.
There is, at least in part 1, I think only one significant female producer. Every other writer and director is male. And almost everyone in the crew is male. And boy, does it show, right?
Yeah.
It is a sort of bro-y aesthetic. Even to the point where, like, the soundtrack is sort of like hard rock, kind of like... I'm not really good with music, but like that kind of like electronic sounding rock that like...
Yeah.
It's very like aggro.
Yeah.
Super, super aggro. So VHS 1, which, by the way, it's called VHS, but it's actually should be called V/H/S, because that's how it's actually written.
Yeah. When I tried to search for the movie for streaming, I just typed in VHS, and it literally told me cannot find.
Yeah.
So I had to put in the stupid slashes, and then that's when it found it. So I'm wondering if they did that because you can trademark V/H/S.
Oh, maybe.
But not VHS.
Right, because it probably already was. VHS, as in the medium, meant video home system. And for you younger listeners... VHS was, it's hard to describe, it was a revolution because before VHS, films were seen in theaters or they were highly edited and seen on broadcast television. But then VHS became these things that you can buy fairly cheap and then...
Rent, actually.
Yeah. Well, I'm talking about the system itself.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Those were fairly cheap. But yeah, the films were pretty expensive, at first at least, because it was built on a rental model. The idea was it was like $100 for a VHS tape. And the video store would, they would drop the $100 as a sort of, I guess, investment. And then they would rent it to you and you'd rent it for like $2, $3. Basically, they were trying to do the same system as like the way distribution works in movie theaters. But I think the first VHS that was like really low price was Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan was only like $29. And that was super successful. And then from that on, it became a kind of thing where there was still rental, but you could easily buy it. And then... after the mom and pop, I know a lot because when I was in grad school, I wrote a whole paper on VHS and videotape.
Oh, man.
And then, and I won't bore you with it, but...
You're not.
I just want to set the stage.
Yeah.
After the mom and pop sort of video store revolution, by the way, we have a whole mini-sode on video store memories. Look back on the feed. Pretty fun. After those, you had like the blockbusters. And the blockbusters had this interesting thing where like, they would get a new release, they would get a bunch of them because the mom and pops would get one copy of everything. So like if you wanted the copy of Forrest Gump, you'd have to like get there before the other guy. You know what I mean? And you'd have to like keep going and be like, is it there? And like, nope, the other guy still has it. So Blockbuster would buy like a whole like 100 of them. And then after it was no longer a new release, they would then package it and sell it as used. So like that was a big thing with Blockbuster, like buying used VHSs.
I remember that because a lot of the the thing with Blockbuster, and I think maybe it was more with DVDs, they would have the case, but it would just say Blockbuster Video on it.
Yeah.
So it would just be like just a random case.
Yeah.
Like you won't have that really cool cover art that you really got with VHS.
Right. Yeah, and the thing I loved about the mom and pop stores where you had the cover art where you would just like walk through and it was like I was a kid and it was like these like canyons of beautiful imagery.
Well,
And I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I mean, I was going to say the reason why the cover art was so beautiful was because the movie sucked.
Right.
A lot of movies sucked, so they needed to sell it by literally judging a book by its cover, judging the VHS by its cover. So they had to make these really fascinating and interesting so that you pick it up. And then when you take it home and you realize it sucks.
Golan and Globus. They would actually make the poster and sell the idea on the poster and then spend that money to produce the film.
That's amazing.
Like the poster was literally like the pitch.
So
I guess bringing it back to this film, a big part of the VHS revolution was horror, because horror has always been visceral, cheap. All you need to spend money on is really effects, and you can get effects pretty cheap. You don't have to spend money on stars because you don't need stars. You get someone, and also often you want cheap thrills like nudity, and often stars don't want to do nudity. So, a lot of the slasher hits of the 80s, like the Nightmare on Elm Streets and the Friday the 13th and the later Halloweens and the Chucky's, that all thrived. And I think that's what inspired this series. Because in the wraparound story of the narrative of the VHS film, this film that we're talking about, which, by the way, came out in 2012, it's about these, like, how do you describe them? They're kind of like... They're kind of like, I don't know what, punk. It begins with a sexual assault. Both movies immediately begin with an assault. Both movies have so much male-gazy, heteronormative boobs. In the beginning of the first VHS, which is where we're starting, you've got this group of dudes, and they go around and they assault women, lift up their shirts against their will, and film it, and then sell those tapes. They're kind of like Girls Gone Wild or Bang Bus, but like more violent.
And against their will, because the Girls Gone Wild, I mean, we can argue how gross they are, but at least you had an idea that the women were doing it because they wanted to.
Right.
But which
you could argue some of them weren't.
But it's actually, what's really scary about VHS, that first wraparound scene, was that you didn't know what they were going to do.
Right. You were like, well, how is this movie started?
Because there's like a bunch of bros acting like douchebags.
Yes.
And then they get in a van. Yeah. And you're like, why are they in a van?
Yeah.
Vans are not good.
Yeah, vans are never good.
No, vans are not good. They don't have any paint cans in there, so they're clearly not painters. What are they doing? And they run up to this woman, and you're like, oh my God, they're going to kidnap her.
Right.
And they grab her, and they grab her shirt, and they pick it up.
Yeah.
And then they just, film it, and then they throw her down, and they run back in the van.
Because all they wanted was to capture that image.
Yeah. I really thought they were going to go out, killing people. I was so, anxious.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting thing about all horror is just, you could go anywhere. And that's sort of, you know what I mean? Like, oh, man, they're going to kill. Because people are going to die in this movie. Is this going to be the first one?
Right.
But this assault is, the first thing you see. And basically, the protagonists of the overall film are the ones doing the assault. And also, on a meta level, are we, the audience, supposed to be thrilled by this assault? It's because it's like we are being served, I imagine. Oh, I shouldn't say imagine. I know that, the sexual assault is depicted. Everyone's an actor, including that woman. This was produced by, actually through the website Bloody Disgusting, which does interesting, reporting on horror genre. But it's for our eyes. So it begins with this weird assault, and they're sort of like video punks or videotape bandits. They're like imagine the Jackass guys, but also Fight Clubby.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like Jackass, but we're not having fun.
No.
They're like those guys seem like they're having fun, but they're doing horrible things. Where in Jackass, the audience are enjoying what we're seeing and we're thinking it's great, but those Jackass guys are not having fun because they're destroying their bodies. But so what was fascinating was that I almost thought of it as a morality thing. I thought starting the VHS movies with this kind of with these assaults, we're putting in position the audience to hate the protagonist and want something bad to happen to them. So that's why I looked up after I watched the movie to see when it came out, because the only other time I felt that, as if the filmmakers were intentionally making us hate the protagonist, was the Hostel movies. So I thought maybe they were it was in that time period, but it's a lot later than the Hostel movies. So I was like, I'm not sure if that was what was going on, but it definitely, you do not feel sorry for any of these people. Like, they're going to die.
Absolutely.
So they were going to die. So, but watching them before they die do horrible things.
Yeah.
It was like, I really don't care that they're going to die.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want anybody to survive. I want that van to blow up and just take them away.
Yeah. That's an interesting read. I don't know if I'm going to agree with you or argue with you. Because I'm a little... Watching these films, and I've seen them both twice, I'm a little on the fence of what it's trying to say or do.
Yeah.
Your reading is cool. I like it. But part of me also thinks that there's not that much brains behind these films. And it just wants to be like aggro.
Okay.
But that could just be me. That could just be my read of it. Well, that is my read of it. So the wraparound. So that's the beginning. We're introduced to these guys, and then I guess the main guy in this group, he gets like weird, like, I don't know, underground black market requests or whatever, or like jobs. And he's told by some dude on the phone, like, hey, break into this house, and the person in this house, whoever owns this house, they hoard VHS tapes. And I want you to find this particular VHS tape. He doesn't say what's on it. He just says, I want to find this tape, and if you get it and steal it from me, I'll give you like thousands of dollars. And I think the guys think it's going to be like some sort of blackmail tape. But what ends up happening is they go to the house, and of course it's a creepy house. They find a dead man sitting in front of a TV, and there's no lights, and there's multiple TVs with snow on them, and there's VHS strewn around. And basically that becomes a wraparound of like, they'll pick up a tape and go, what is this? Put it in the VCR, and then we'll watch a story.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, but also doesn't totally make sense. Because, like, they treat it like video. Like, you'll see a whole story, and then you'll see the main character or the wraparound characters again, and they'll be like, that was weird.
Yeah.
But they're not like, that was a fully formed narrative and that was a fully formed short subject. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's also, it's called VHS because there are these VHS tapes. But most of this stuff is digital video. Even in the stories, often... It's not even supposed to be VHS. Like, there are ones where it's a GoPro. There are ones where, the first one in the first movie, it's a hidden camera in eyeglasses. It's like spy camera.
What's the second movie?
No, I'm talking about... No, the second movie is the bionic eye. I'm talking about the first movie is the nerd guy with the glasses.
I'm sorry.
The succubus.
Okay, yeah.
So... It's not, so it kind of breaks its own thing. I guess they just wanted to call it VHS as a harken back to the 80s, but it's not really like they're watching VHSs.
Well, it's also, if you think of it as like VHS, there are times where like the camera position changes. Like it'll cut from like, you're seeing it from like the main character's like fully looking at television, like you're in the television point of view, and then it'll cut to like a different camera. So you're thinking, is someone like editing all this together? Like it makes no sense.
It's ostensibly found footage, but it breaks those rules pretty readily. I should say from the get-go, I think these movies are fun. I actually think they're a fun Halloween October viewing. It's not going to change your life. It's probably not going to remember it next week. But it's a fun thing to throw on and just sort of turn your brain off for it. And you're going to have a few good jumps. Like, I definitely had a few good jumps. Even when I knew jumps were coming, I had a few like, oh, fuck. Right? So if you're looking for that in the month of October, I think these are perfectly serviceable, fun horror movies.
I absolutely agree. So
the wraparound narrative, all these stories, by the way, have names, but they're not. They're shown in the credits. So it's not like inside of the film. You have to look at the credits to see what they're all named. The wraparound narrative that we've just been talking about is called Tape 56. And it's directed by Adam Wingard, and it's written by Adam Wingard and Simon Barrett. And they are the ones who made this wraparound. The first short story that we see is called Amateur Night, written by David Bruckner and Nicholas Tukowski. Do you remember this one?
Yeah, I vaguely. It's not one of my favorites.
Okay, see, it is one of my favorites.
Okay.
So it's called Amateur Night because it's, again, we immediately go to another group of broy bros, and these broy bros are like in a hotel room on some sort of spring break vacation, and they're all drinking shots, and the nerdy broy bro, they outfit him with these glasses where in the frame is a secret hidden camera. Because what they're going to do tonight is they're going to go out, get some girls, bring them back, fuck them, and make an amateur porn. That's why it's called Amateur Night. And the nerdy boy is like, I don't know, but he ends up doing it anyway. He ends up not really being a nice guy.
Yeah.
So they go out, they go to a club, they meet some girls. These guys are complete douchey bros. And there's this one girl who is beautiful, and she's got these gigantic eyes, and it's really the actress. It's a really interesting actress, and she's got these gigantic eyes, and she's like odd, and she's like, I like you. She's got this interesting, and she starts talking to the nerdy guy, and the nerdy guy like starts to like her too, and she's like, I like you.
But that's all she says.
Yeah. But she's like, you think like, what's her deal? Is she disabled in some way? Is she? Well, you don't really know her deal. So her and her friend go back to the hotel room with these guys. They're all drunk and doing cocaine, and like you do. And the leader of the douchey bros, he tries to fuck this one girl, and she passes out, and he actually stops, which is, I guess, not a bad thing. But then he goes, well, I'm gonna fuck this other girl, the odd girl. And the nerdy guy is like disappointed because they had a connection going. And then so the douchey guy starts really aggressively kissing the odd girl. And wouldn't you know it, Nadia, she's a fucking succubus. Actually, I read her as a vampire, and then you said, no, she's a succubus. Which I think you're right, but basically she has this interesting scar on her forehead, like a line in between her eyes, and that opens to like expose like a weird like head mouth thing, and she's got supernatural. She's basically a beast. She bites the dude, and then the nerdy guy runs into the bathroom, and he's like, "Oh shit, what's happening?" And then he comes out, and there's just fucking blood everywhere, and she has wings that come out. It's pretty intense, and what I like about it is, I do think, at least in this case, it is saying something about the male gaze. Because it's these assholes that are trying to take advantage of this girl, both physically and, visually with the camera that she doesn't know is there. And she fucking eats them. And I like that.
Yeah. I mean, I like the monster. I like that you kind of went out there.
Yeah.
I actually wasn't sure what she was when I first watched it.
Yeah.
Because they don't. I mean, you're kind of in the view of the bros, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're in the point of view of the nerdy guy.
Yeah.
So there's no explanation.
Yeah.
There's just this thing.
Right.
And it's eating and it's scary. It's kind of like what I like about these movies in general is that they don't explain anything to you.
Yeah, there's a few stories, and we'll get to them later, that are like really like, there's fan theories about them because they're so bananas. It's like you have to watch them more than once to be like, what the fuck was that? Some of the writing, that's one of my problems with the series, is the writing's all over the place. You'll have a great story next to a fucking story that sucks so bad.
Yeah.
I think that there is something smart going on in this one in talking about sexism. And even the nerdy guy, he doesn't do anything to help her, and I think he dies for it. Nobody lives in this one. The nerdy guy runs away, and she likes him, and then she, in her beast form, tries to blow him. And we see his point of... We don't see his penis, but it's still his point of view because it's from his eye camera, or the camera in his eyeglasses. And she's like... You see her head like... And then he's not getting hard because she's a monster. And then she's like, no like? And then he's like, And then she picks him up and flies with him. And that's a really cool scene because you like... From his point of view, you see him now way off the ground as she's like dragging him, and then she drops him from the air and falls, and that's the end of it. She just drops him and he dies.
Yeah, that was crazy. So what I thought was, because I know from Greek mythology that's what harpies do to their victims. So at first I thought she was a harpy.
Huh.
So
wait,
Harpies, they grab their victims.
Yeah.
Similar to like certain types of hawks, where they'll fly high up and then they'll drop them. So like they do that. Yeah. Hawks do that because they pick up like sea turtles. Yeah. So they break the shells so they can get on the inside. So that's kind of where that comes from. And then like, so the scary monster part is like a beautiful woman is actually a creature, and then she will pick you up and drop you so you die. But it turns out, because thanks to Wikipedia, the monster is a succubus, because she's not actually eating them, she's just ripping them apart, but she's also letting them have sex with her, and that's what succubi do.
I don't know, she doesn't really though. I don't think any of them get. She wants to have sex with the nerdy dude, but she doesn't let the other dude get anywhere. She eats him before he can violate her, I believe.
I thought he penetrated her.
That we don't see. When the nerdy guy runs into the bathroom, there's a lot that isn't seen.
That's true. So that can be a question, yeah.
Here's another weird wrinkle in this, which is this story is the only story in this series that was spun off into its own feature film. And that feature film is called Siren. And sirens in mythology sing, and you're sort of enchanted by their beauty, and you come to them and they kill you. So
yeah, but they're also like the siren. It's always sailors. So like they're singing on the rock, and then when the sailors move their boat closer, they crash, and then they eat the sailors. I think that's the thing. So it's, I guess, the writers of these stories are kind of like maybe skimming Wikipedia and then writing, not really like sticking to any like the creature guidelines. Like, oh, this sounds cool. Let me put that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't actually make sense.
Do you like this story?
I thought the pacing was a little off. Like, I feel like it took way too long to get to the monster point. Because you knew she was weird.
You knew what was going to happen, basically.
And as soon as I saw that wrinkle on her forehead, I'm like, that's going to be like a third eye or something gross. And that's going to freak them out. Yeah. So
just her odd behavior, you kind of know where it's going to go. Yeah.
It gets to a point where you realize that she can only say, I like you. Like, she can't say anything else.
Well, what's weird is she is friends with the other girl. So, like, was the other girl bait? Because the other girl seems like a totally normal girl.
You know what's weird about it? I did not read them as friends. I actually...
They could have just been...
I really think she was just waiting around to pick up victims. So she was... Because she's kind of like sitting around them, but they don't... The girls don't interact with her. But also, again, because we're in the point of view from the glasses camera, we only get to the part when the guys show up. So we don't know if she's actually...
What she's doing,
if she's with them or not. And they don't seem to like really... connect or any when the two girls go home.
Right, that's true.
Again, because of the framework, we don't know what's the story here.
Right, that's a good point. I guess one thing I like about these films they are if you want to rewatch them, you can digest them fairly easily and just go, that was fun, Halloween fare. But if you want to rewatch them, I think you'll find more. Yeah. Because given the found footage nature of it all, there are things that are happening outside of the frame that you're not exactly sure of.
Yeah, you kind of like have to fill in the blanks for a lot of things. There's not a lot of what's the term? What's the term for when a movie in the dialogue it's describing it's
exposition?
Thank you. There's very little exposition in these movies. Right. You're kind of just dropped in, which actually I appreciate. Yeah. One of my favorite things about horror, and this is just a personal thing, is that things are just scary. The more you explain things, the less scary they are, because then you have this like theoretical understanding. Yeah. This is kind of why I don't like monster movie reboots of like classic slasher movies, because then we get this whole backstory.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
they add a whole lot.
And I'm like, I don't give a shit if Freddy Krueger's mom didn't treat him right, or whatever the hell's going on with Michael. Like, who cares? They're just scary. Just let it be scary.
Yeah. Okay. I respect that. The second story is, I think, a really clever one, although we can talk about whether or not it's problematic ideologically.
All right.
This one is called Second Honeymoon.
Yeah.
Do you want to take this one? Give us a brief synopsis.
Well, it's a young couple. They're probably in their early 30s. They're on their honeymoon, and this is the video camera that they take, documenting some road trip in the West, in the Southwest.
Yeah.
Well, what kind of goes on is that they run into they're in these small towns and they're traveling and they're in this nature.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of people. And the few people that are there are weird.
Yeah.
It's just it's not anything necessarily like dangerous, but it just seems like kind of odd behavior.
Yeah.
Like they're the odd people out.
Yeah.
So most of the narrative kind of takes place when they're in this hotel room and someone is like, and what you notice is that the camera is being used, and then the camera pans and you realize that the couple are sleeping.
So
it's like someone's breaking into their motel room, using their stuff and using their camera as like a voyeur, and then like leaving.
Right, stealing money, taking the dude's toothbrush and putting it in the toilet. You know, removing the blanket from the female and looking at her leg. And it's very, very tense.
It's so uncomfortable because you don't read it so much as like necessarily dangerous.
Right.
It's just creepy because whoever it is, he's always leaving before they wake up, so they don't even notice until like later when they're driving and the boyfriend is like, "Did you take $20 out of my wallet?"
Yeah.
Or you know, I had this money.
Right.
And it starts like little tiffs with them, like arguments.
Right. And that ends up being an interesting little clue for the ending because he says like, "Well, it wouldn't be the first time that you just took my money."
That's another thing,
which
right?
Which is like, ooh, what's going on with this couple?
Yeah, it's like the secret, you know, instigator is like poking holes in their relationship.
Yeah.
And from that perspective, that's fascinating because you're not really sure. Is it just some creep? Is it like someone who just gets off on messing with them, or does he know one of them?
Yeah.
Like, you don't know. Because if the fact that he put the man's toothbrush in the toilet, because you know it's his because after that scene, he's brushing his teeth with the same toothbrush.
It immediately pays off.
Yeah, it's great. But it's like...
What's also, I think, really interesting about that scene is the stalker, I guess, goes into the bathroom to get the toothbrush, and... he doesn't look directly in the mirror. There's just a brief glance, and you kind of just see very, very quickly like a weird-looking mask. So it's like, ooh, what's happening here? And they have another day out seeing sights or whatever, and then it happens again that night. But that night, the stalker person stabs the dude in the fucking throat.
I mean, he escalates it by teasing with the knife.
Yeah.
Right? And then he stabs.
Right. But this ends up having a twist ending, this one. This would be a great point to say, spoiler alert, for all of these stories. I'll put spoiler alert in the description of the podcast, but we're going to talk about all of these things.
Yeah.
So what's the twist ending, Nadia?
Well, the twist ending is that the female partner is in on it.
Yeah.
And she's actually after her husband or whatever dies, she's kissing the guy with the camera.
Well, it's a girl.
It was a girl?
Yeah. This is why I find it problematic, because we find out this woman who is married to this man is actually gay, and that her partner was stalking, killing them. And it's one of these things where it's like, that's a cool twist, and it's cool how they reveal it, because the camera cuts and then you see like them in a car, and the wife is now talking to the killer like, hey, you know, did you do it? Did you get it? And then you see them kissing, and it's sort of like, that's a cool twist, but also like, why not just leave your husband? Like, why did you plan a trip to have this woman come? It also feels very like the murderous lesbian to me.
Yeah, you're right. I'll be honest with you, I didn't even realize it was a woman.
Really?
I just thought it was very like skinny, effeminate man.
Okay.
There's kind of a thing in like the different gender presentation.
Yeah.
But with lesbians, like some are very masculine, and some just kind of look like emo teenagers.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why I really just thought it was a younger guy. So stupid me. But yes, the murderous queer person is something that only sort of recently we got over in cinema. Right. But also
it still pops up.
It does pop up sometime, not as frequently as it used to.
No.
But it's definitely still around.
Yeah.
But also, this is a movie that would actually do with some exposition here. Because why is she murdered? Like, does he have money? Like, maybe that's what the comment was. Like, it's not the first time you took my money. Like, maybe she married him for his money and to rob him.
Yeah.
Maybe she and her partner are like serial killers, like Eileen Wuornos or something, and they go around like seducing men and murdering them.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we don't know because this is his camera.
Yeah.
And they don't talk about it after she kills the guy and they run off and the killer is like holding the camera.
Yeah.
I think the woman's like, turn that shit off, and they shut off the camera. So
she says something that makes it clear that she was in on this whole plan.
Yeah.
It's a good twist.
It's a good twist in that she's in on it.
Yeah.
But then
it's a plan.
Yeah, it's a plan, but I don't think like the lesbianism, like you said, I don't think it adds anything.
Yeah, because if it were another heterosexual relationship, it would still be a twist that she's in on it. But making it she's actually gay and she's in this same-sex relationship, it makes it like, well, was she faking being heterosexual to get this guy's money? Or I mean, I guess if you were to kill your partner, having it happen while you're on vacation would be a kind of good alibi. But it looks like they're running away, so it doesn't look like she's staying to like play the sad wife.
So there's all these questions. Also, there are scenes where they're like in nature and they're near cliffs. I was actually waiting for him to fall off a cliff.
Yeah, there's a very tense scene where they're like he's on a cliff and like you think like is she gonna push him? Is he gonna push her? What's gonna happen?
Or the killer is following them and push them off. But then that doesn't pay off.
Right.
And also, with the vacation thing, it's like, if she planned on murdering him when they're on vacation, why wouldn't she just make it look like an accident?
Yeah. He's pretty viciously stabbed in the throat.
Like, it's very obvious that he's murdered. So when you're watching it, you're like, this is fun and it's a good twist. But then when you think about it, when you talk about it, you're like, oh,
it doesn't make a ton of sense.
It doesn't make a lot of sense, and there's all these weird questions.
Yeah. There's an interesting scene in the segment, though, where they go to, like, one of those, like... Remember the movie Big? Like, one of those, like, fortune teller, like, machines? And he looks like an old prospector, and he's like, give me a quarter, and I'll read you your fortune. And they do it, and she reads the fortune, and it's sort of as a foreshadow for what happens in the story, where it's like, someone, you will reconnect with a loved one soon, but don't trust your so-called friends. It kind of seems to predict what's going to happen to the guy.
Yeah, that was weird. I also thought it was, when I saw that prospector, I thought it was going to be a supernatural thing.
Yeah.
I also thought that, I don't know. I don't know what I thought, but the
stories sort of bounce back and forth between supernatural horror and like killers and stuff, slashers.
Yeah.
But then there's also some alien stories, which we can argue. We'll get there when we get there. But some of them work and some of them don't work and shouldn't be in these movies.
Yeah.
The next story is called Tuesday the 17th. And it's called Tuesday the 17th because if you do the math, that would be the Tuesday after Friday the 13th. And this section is a pretty clear homage to Friday the 13th and the 80s slasher genre.
Yeah.
This is a pretty simple setup. Kids go out to the woods. They're going on a camping trip. You've got the hot blonde girl who's kind of mean, and then the sensible brunette. You've got the douchey bro who's hooking up with he's actually hooking up with the brunette, and then you've got the nerdy guy who everyone shits on. This is in every Jason movie.
Yeah.
And the brunette girl starts to say weird shit in the woods, like, you're all gonna die up here, and like weird shit, and you're like, what, is she gonna go crazy? Is she gonna kill them? Is this a supernatural story?
Actually, she says, you're all gonna die, right?
Yeah.
And that's even like more, that's very aggressive and odd.
Yeah, her boyfriend's like, what? I'm sorry, what? And then they do something that I think is really, really cool, because it's one of these stories that actually plays with the medium, which is there is a killer, there is a slasher, like the Jason movies, but the slasher is invisible to her, but to us, watching it through a camera, the slasher is represented as like a glitch in the actual VHS itself. Like, you see like an outline or a silhouette of a man with a hood, but that silhouette, it's hard to describe without actually seeing it, but that silhouette is the tape. It feels like the tape is breaking, which this may not be something younger audience members get. Like, part of the thing with VHSs are they were pretty shitty, and you can wear a tape down. You can easily break a tape. Sometimes the VCR would eat a tape. So you begin to see that, like, when the killer, she can only see the killer through the camera. And we find out, by the way, that the brunette girl, her friends had been killed by this killer, and this new crop of friends, she lured them out there as bait because she wants to find the killer
and kill him.
And kill him because she sets these weird traps for him. It's stupid. The thing that works the most with this is the cool effect of that the killer becomes represented as this sort of glitch. It always reminds me of, like, the way, like, you can't see a vampire in a mirror. Like, this is a more technological thing. Like, the killer's invisible unless you have a visual medium, and then it still can't really capture him. Yeah,
because she even says at one point, like, why can't I film you?
Right.
And, like, with the camera, she's trying to get him.
Yeah.
That story, I did feel it was a little stupid, but I like the idea that the final girl tries to get revenge.
Right.
Like, that's interesting.
But she's also kind of a bad guy.
Well, she becomes the bad guy because of what happened to her.
She sets them up to be...
Right.
This boyfriend of hers, he gets killed, and, you know, she basically she has these other 3 people killed in an effort to get this killer.
Well, I mean, if you think of horror as, like, generally like assault, right?
Yes.
So, and you kind of think of what happens to the final girls in so many movies that they change, right?
Yeah.
They become hard. They become vicious. They become more powerful.
Yeah.
Right? Because of a traumatic experience. So you can argue that she changed. We don't know that, of course, because, again, you have to build on these movies because we're dropped in the middle of a story.
Right.
But you can make that argument that because this thing hunted down all her friends and she was the last one, she has become driven by any means necessary to destroy it.
It's interesting that you and I keep coming back to the representation of women, and it's not because we're such flaming liberals.
I think it's an academic thing more than anything.
No, I don't think so, because I feel like my mind doesn't always go in this route. But I feel like gender is always an issue, either implicit or explicit, in the horror genre, and this film deals with it in so many different ways with these different directors and different stories. And it seems like you and I keep coming back to, is there meaning? Is there not meaning? Are we adding meaning? This is the second time that you and I had a struggle over one of us thinking it is transgressive and the other thinking it's regressive. Because I kind of see it as regressive. I see it as, even though she's the victim, she's still a bitch who, like, gets her boyfriend killed. But you were seeing it as, like, an interesting turn on the final girl motif. It's which I think it's a very valid read.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we can go back and forth. I don't think we can ever, like, really have a winner here.
Yeah, and I don't know if the people making the film ever put this much thought into it.
Definitely not. But the reason why I read it that way is because the kind of dumb boyfriend was kind of a jerk.
Yeah.
Because he kind of, like, everyone shits on the nerdy guy, but he is really awful to that guy.
Yeah.
He's like an 80s school bully.
Right.
To his supposed friend,
right? Right. It's like the way Zach Morris and Screech were this weird sub-dom relationship where it's like, why would Screech ever spend time with Zach Morris? He's so abusive to him all of the time.
Yeah, that's basically, that's how I saw it. So it's like, it kind of plays back to my other idea of these VHS movies where it's like, you want this guy to die, or you don't care about him.
Yes. Have you seen the Friday the 13th movies?
I haven't for a very long time.
I feel like it's an interesting, because I recently this summer rewatched all of them for the first time in a long, long time. And I liked a lot of them. Some of them I didn't like. It was one of those things where I watched as a kid and I had a certain memory of how I thought about them, and watching them now, I read them entirely different. Mm-hmm. And it is, I would like to know, I would love for you to watch those movies and then watch this again, because it seems like such a clear meditation on that movie, not just in the fact that the title is a reference to it, Tuesday the 17th, but because it's like, the archetypes are the same. It's like a little mini slasher.
Yeah.
The fact, Jason Voorhees, the killer in Friday the 13th, you could look at him as like he thrived in the VHS world, even more than in theatrical, right?
Yeah.
So the fact that the killer in this movie is sort of like can't be filmed is like he's like the anti-VHS. I think it's really interesting. Again, I don't know if I'm putting more into it than they were, or if that matters. I can have my own read of it. I'm not totally an authorship person, but I really like that idea of like, if Jason is somebody who like existed in the VHS world, like you'd have a sleepover party in the 80s and you'd watch Jason movies and giggle and eat popcorn or whatever. Maybe that was just my childhood. And this movie is like the killer can't be captured by VHS.
I mean, maybe you are putting more thought than the filmmakers, but I really like your read. It actually makes me appreciate that I ranked each one.
Ooh, cool.
So Tuesday was number like 3 out of 4. So it's like it's okay, but your read actually makes me appreciate it more.
Okay.
Because I haven't even thought about Friday the 13th since I was a kid and rented VHS DVDs.
They're some are hard to get through.
Yeah.
And even though they came out in quick succession, almost everyone has an entirely different crew.
Okay.
So they're so different. Each one is so different, and they break the rules of the other ones, and it's just a very odd franchise in that way. So some are terrible and some are great. But it'll make you think differently about this segment.
I do have a question for you about the 13th movie, Friday the 13th. So the only memory I have of the Friday the 13th movies, and it might not even really be it, is there's a scene where a woman or someone is in water. Mm-hmm. And there's a boat, and the boat moves, and it runs over that person, and then their like eye is gouged out. Uh-huh. And that's how they're murdered. Yeah. Did that happen in the Friday the 13th movie?
For sure. I just don't remember which one it is.
Okay, so...
but for sure that happens.
Yeah, because you ever have that like kind of Mandela effect where you have a false memory?
Yeah.
So when the first time you asked me about Friday the 13th movies over the summer, I was like, that's the one thing that came to mind.
Right.
Is just that scene, and I couldn't even remember what it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
It definitely happens. I just don't remember which one.
Yeah, so, okay. So
the teenagers in those movies become such interchangeable archetypes.
Yeah.
This is a note I wrote down that I just want to read you verbatim what I wrote.
Go.
So many boobs. Does the film just want to serve us up nudity, or does it know that it's gratuitous and is trying to say something?
I don't...
There are so many boobs in this movie.
Yeah.
So many. And that was a big part of the VHS, there's boobs in the slasher movies of the 80s, But I don't know. It's we again come back to like, is it on purpose or not? But there's a ton of boobs in these movies.
I don't think that can be answered, actually.
Yeah, neither do I. All right, so the next story is a really weird one. The title is "The Sick Thing That Happened to Emily When She Was Younger."
A very long title.
Yeah. What happens in this one? Or what do you think happens in this one? It's odd.
Well, so this is where the VHS thing doesn't make sense because it takes place of video calls.
Right. It's like through Skype interface
with a woman Skyping with her slightly older boyfriend who seems to be in medical school or something from their exposition. And she's just talking about, that she's just catching up with her boyfriend. Yeah. And also documenting some odd things that are happening in her house.
It feels like Paranormal Activity. She hears like a sound and she's like, oh, and she opens the door and there's like, it looks like a little ghost of like a little girl.
Yeah, so it's like she's seeing these like little things that you think are ghosts. Right. So it's always in the peripherals and you could see it run across the room. Right.
It's pretty scary. I got scared during this
I was terrified.
And the boyfriend, he's in medical school somewhere else. Through the dialogue, you find out that he's in medical school and that they knew each other for a long time. Because that's what the title refers to. Like when she was younger, she has this weird scar from when she was younger. She like cut herself open or some such thing. And
that she doesn't have memory of.
Right.
She brings it up that she doesn't remember.
Right. And in one of the scenes, she's talking about how she has this weird bump in her arm. And she's like, I don't know what this bump is. And then we see her later on and she's like literally digging in her arm with a knife. Oh. And you're like, oh, is this girl crazy? And then there's the ghosts. And and then she's like, I can't look at it, it'll scare me. So I'm just going to walk into the living room with my eyes closed, holding the laptop, and you tell me if she's behind me.
Oh, God.
Right? And it's pretty spooky.
Yeah, that freaked me out. It turns out, like, you know, spoiler alert, that it's a mix of Paranormal Activity and The Brood.
Okay.
The Cronenberg movie?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. How do you see that?
Because this is where it gets freaking crazy. Real crazy. Is that she passes out or something. Because she gets these, this is what she keeps talking to her medical student boyfriend about, is that she has these random periods where she passes out.
Yeah.
And she, like, loses time. Yeah. And it turns out that he's doing something to her.
Yeah.
That he's not in another state. He actually lives close enough that he ran to her house.
That's such a shocking reveal.
I was like...
When he walks in the door from her computer's point of view, and you're like, oh, shit, he's not far away. That almost got me more than anything else. I was like, whoa, what's happening?
There is no instance during that story that it seems like he's menacing in any way.
Right, you feel like maybe she's mentally ill. Yeah, but then it gets weirder, doesn't it? Because what does he do?
He digs in her body and is taking stuff out.
A little fetus.
Like, he takes out a little fetus, like The Brood.
Yes.
And also the bump on her arm turned out to be like
a tracking
device. Yeah. And I was like, I've never been so surprised.
And the little ghost kids are there, and he starts talking to them, and he's like, how many more times does she have to do this? Like he's made some sort of deal with them. See, I read them as aliens.
You know, I didn't know what to think. I just thought that there was some sort of like growing from her body. Like maybe there was something... Like, because I kept thinking about The Brood, because I watched The Brood a few months ago.
Yeah.
And in that story, in The Brood, this woman realizes that she can create creatures from her body when she experiences extreme emotion, right? So I thought that maybe she was a kind of host.
That's a good point.
And I thought that the doctor, medical, whatever, the guy was pushing her to create these things.
See, I read it more as... I thought of them as aliens that just look like ghosts. And the way that he talks to them, like, how many more times does she have to do this? It seems like he's made a deal he doesn't like anymore. Like, he feels bad that he's, like, not making her knock out and then, like, taking weird fetuses out of her.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, I think you're right.
And then there's another twist where we cut to another scene and it's another girl on a Skype call and she's talking like his girlfriend. And you realize this guy has this scam with multiple women. Yeah,
that blew me away. That was actually my favorite segment in this whole movie.
Really?
Because it freaked me. It's so
freaky. It gets freakier and freakier and freakier. So you didn't read that. The Brood is a really good point, but you didn't read them as aliens. The thing in her arm is technological, and that made me think aliens.
You know, now talking to you, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Because they're not ghosts. We know that they're not ghosts.
Right, they're definitely not ghosts.
I just didn't know what they were. I was so blown away by like this story.
Right, and you could find a lot of like interesting writings about this story online because it is such a mind fuck of what was that.
This would be great as a feature-length film, I think.
I'm going to disagree because I think it's so odd.
Yeah.
And it gives you such little information.
Okay.
And I think that's what makes it this curio of what the fuck is happening. Are they monsters? Are they ghosts? Who's the villain? Who's the good guy? What's happening?
Okay, that's fair.
I feel like a feature film would give you too much.
All right. I can see that. I think I think I'm just going on more of a personal thing. Was I enjoyed it so much, I want like a little more. Kind of candy.
It's definitely... Was this your favorite one?
It was my favorite one.
Okay. I like this one a lot.
It was a great mix of body horror and paranormal stuff.
Yeah.
And the twist on the lover who is the villain, right? Yeah. Like there's something...
Right.
It's all there and it just fits so well.
Yeah. Again, that's that theme again. Actually, when you think about it, in the Tuesday the 17th, the girl brings them up to be killed. You've got the other story of the couple on the vacation. Mm-hmm. one member of a couple deceiving the other is a theme throughout this film, throughout all of them when you think about it.
That's true.
But you could also read it as in that story with the two married couple, you could second honeymoon. Mm-hmm. You could read the and other people have said this. You can read the fortune she gets is talking about all the movies.
Oh.
As maybe alluding to some of the other stories.
Okay. Yeah. That's true.
But getting back to the wraparound narrative, it makes no fucking sense in terms of what's going on in the wraparound narrative. Because in the wraparound narrative, they keep going back to the house and they're like watching these videos, and then there's like spooky stuff happening in the background, and they're like, ooh, what's this video? What's this video? And it's kind of like, how would that get on a VHS?
Yeah.
You know, like it's very...
yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make a ton of sense.
But also, what I've noted in both movies, VHS VHS 2, is that the wraparound stories who are watching these tapes have very little reaction, which I feel like in these stories, I think you would have a more extreme reaction.
Well, in the second movie, the tapes have a different effect. In the first movie, these douchey guys, they like, I guess they look at it like this is just the stuff they're into, like this like Faces of Death kind of stuff. But in the second movie, to jump ahead a little bit, I feel like the stories are almost more like the King in Yellow idea of you go mad by seeing them.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Because remember, there's a female in the wraparound story of the second one, and she kind of like, with every video she watched, she gets more comatose.
Oh my God. I did not put that together.
It's odd.
That actually makes me appreciate that more. Because I wasn't sure what was happening in that movie.
So, if you'll allow me to get pretentious for just a minute, I want to read you something that I kept thinking about with this movie. So, the famous cultural critic Susan Sontag, she wrote the book-length essay on photography, which if you've never read, it's amazing because when you read it, you'll be thinking about Snapchat and Instagram and selfies, but this book was written in the 70s. And this is a quote from this essay. To photograph people is to violate them by seeing them as they never see themselves, by having knowledge of them that they can never have. It turns people into objects that can be symbolically possessed. Just as a camera is a sublimation of the gun, to photograph someone is sublimation of murder, a soft murder, appropriate to a sad, frightened time.
Yeah, that's right. That's a great quote.
The idea that the camera itself is a violator. I think, you know, from the very first moment in this film where they assault that woman and pull her shirt up to show her breasts against her will, I feel like that's one way to read this. And it's also a way to read 80s horror movies.
Right.
Right? I mean, Siskel and Ebert, who I like sometimes and dislike other times, they were very, very puritanical when it came to slasher movies, and they really hated them. And they often were talking about this topic of like, they hated all the Friday the 13th movies because they said it's just about showing female bodies and showing females in pain, and which they have a point. And I think in some ways this movie is maybe dealing with that.
I mean, I could see that. It's because not only are the camera is violating people's privacy, right? In a lot of these in some of these segments, especially the wraparound, violating privacy. Mm-hmm. It's also violating their final moments.
Yeah,
like it turns that their deaths into spectacle, and you kind of wonder what these VHS collections are. I took it as like snuff films. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Like I thought that. What kind? I mean, it doesn't really make sense, but maybe like an argument that for it to make sense is that all these supernatural deaths and all these slasher things are somebody amassing a collection of murder.
Right. You're like collecting death.
Yeah. That's why I was like, these are snuff films, and the VHS wraparound stories are also kind of like collecting.
Yeah. That's really interesting. And the danger that you get into with the collecting.
Right.
Right? Because the characters in both part 1 and part 2, when they go to the lair, and I'm not sure if it's supposed to be the same house or not, but when you go to the lair and you find the VHS tapes, this is what ends up being their damnation. the wraparound characters.
Yeah, because they, instead of, running away, they stay and watch the tapes.
Yeah, you watch, and though that's the problem. You view. You and that makes you implicit, right? Or maybe Susan Sontag would say like that now you're a part of the crime.
Yeah, but then they get punished for it. We see their punishment. They die.
Yes. Do you remember the fappening? The fappening was
no.
Some years ago, I forget, a handful of years ago, the Apple cloud was breached and hacked, and a bunch of nudes from celebrities were released on the internet.
Oh, okay.
The internet called it the fappening because the idea that heterosexual males were jerking off to all this stuff. And there was a lot of celebrities, but the highest profile was definitely...
Was it Jennifer Lawrence?
Yeah, Jennifer Lawrence. And she said something really interesting that I think about. She said, if you look at these images, you're just as complicit as the person who stole them from me. And you are committing a crime. And I'm going to be honest, I looked at those images, and I think a lot of people did.
Were they good?
I mean, no. I mean, they're fascinating because she's an A-list movie star, and now I'm seeing her body. Whereas, but if I want to be titillated, there's plenty more well-produced pornography out there.
Right.
But I'm seeing what I'm not supposed to see.
Okay.
But I wonder if she's right. Am I a criminal?
Yes.
Have I done something wrong?
Yes.
But that means, how many Americans do you think looked up those images after it became news?
Definitely a lot.
So
of people.
are we all criminals?
Yeah.
Interesting.
You're just like, let me ask this question so you ponder, and I'm like, no, you're all
no,
wrong.
But it's interesting. Well, you are. I mean, no, I don't think you're wrong. It is interesting to say, yeah, we're all criminals, because if we all are, then that's something sick about us all.
I mean, that's the fascination. And it's like kind of the fascination with, what Susan Sontag talks about with photography, is that we get this gross pleasure out of it. And people, and, the fappening, and everyone's like, what was the sell, again, was that's a celebrity. And you're like, I might not see Jennifer Lawrence nude in a movie.
Mm-hmm. You never would. You never would. And this is really her with her real boyfriend at the time. And some of it's very explicit, like her with semen on her chest and like some real crazy stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what some of the content was, or do you remember?
Oh, there was a lot. What's the most explicit? Maybe the most explicit is Aubrey Plaza from Parks and Recreation fingering herself. There's a video of her fingering herself.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I actually would have looked that up, I'll be honest. So I'm
You're
also
a criminal. You're a monster.
She's hot.
Yeah. You've also got, I think there's like one butt shot of Selena Gomez. There's a couple of shots of Melissa Benoist, who plays Supergirl.
But also, you also have to consider, too, that they're all like in their 20s, right? They're all kind of youngish.
Yeah.
So that's another layer on this, is that we're watching like young women.
Oh, sure. But that's pornography. Pornography is all about young women.
Yeah, that's
Unless
true.
the fetish is an older woman.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And then it's like MILF. MILF takes 5 dicks.
Cookies and MILF. Yeah. But it's also like, it's interesting because these were either taken, selfie style, but to give to an intimate partner. And then it was hacked. Right. So it's like, it's not just a view, it's like stealing an intimacy. Yeah. It's fascinating. But you know what? Like, I'm heterosexual. But whenever I hear of a male celebrity, I go look that up immediately because I'm like, yeah, I want to see that guy's dick because I'm not going to see it in a movie. Don't you want to see Justin Bieber's dick or whatever? There's a fascination. I think we live in this weird world of the digital age where we're like, we think we can get anything. Like, I could listen to any song whenever I want it. I could read anything when I want it. I could find any commercial from the 80s on YouTube. We live in this time of like, not only do we have all this content available to us, but I feel like it should be fucking available to us. It's like that joke from the comedian Gary Goldman where he's like, one day we said, I want all the music on my phone. And the record companies were like, well, how much do you want to pay for it? And he's like, I want to pay nothing for it. Well, how much of the music? all the music. Like, that's the way that we think. And if you were to tell me, no, you shouldn't go see Justin Bieber's dick or Jennifer Lawrence's breast, I'd go, no, I live in a world of viewing, and I'm going to view.
Yeah. I mean, you do make a great argument.
But I still think that I'm depraved, and maybe we're all depraved.
I mean, I would say that too.
I read an interesting meme where I forget what it was, but this guy was like, I want to thank the internet for showing me more naked women than all of my ancestors ever saw. And think about that. That's probably true. Yeah. I mean, in real life, you only see so many naked people in your intimate life. And then through print pornography or videos, you can see so many people. But you can go online today. You go on Reddit and see 100 naked people. I mean, think about, we've seen more naked people than any other humans ever.
Yeah. I mean, and also, you can get not just naked people, but very specific scenario naked people.
Oh, yeah.
There's a subreddit of just bouncing tits.
Really?
Like, a friend sent it to me as a joke, and it's literally just scroll of various different women.
Are they GIFs?
Some of them are GIFs, some of them are video of just naked women bouncing, or like clothed women, and you can see their bouncing tits.
Interesting.
That's all it is, and I'm like, this is so specific.
Yeah.
Like, you.
Let me just write this down. That's our.
It's so niche. You can be. Not only do you have access to all the breasts, all the naked people, all the dicks, but you can give specific dick. You can go on Pornhub and look up like dick shaming porn. You could Google curved weird penis.
Right.
You can look at whatever you want.
And you don't want to fetish shame, but you do want to think about what this effect could have on us. Like, if there's like a trigger in our brain that makes us get aroused, are we like hitting that button too much so we have to go weirder and weirder and weirder?
Yeah, like we're becoming dull.
Yeah, and
which I feel like it's like a Family Guy sketch or something.
Yeah.
Where you just see the same, like you keep seeing so much. You have to go like sicker and deeper just to get a thrill.
Yeah. Anyway, let's get back to the movie. So the last story is called 10/31/98. And it takes place in 1998, and it's supposed to be a VHS. This is, I think, the only story that's supposed to actually be a VHS camcorder.
Yeah.
And it has an old-fashioned, like, it's got that VHS camcorders. When you made your own VHS footage, oh, it looked terrible. Even the time you made it was VHS was it was a good medium for taking 35 millimeter film and distributing it through video stores, but in terms of making VHS footage, it's awful. It was pretty awful.
Yeah.
And I made a lot of VHS movies when I was a little kid, and none of it ever looked good. It's all very a lot of noise and pixelation. But in this movie, you've got that, and I think it really works for what happens, which is in some ways, this is a very standard haunted house story. Mm-hmm. It's 1998, and one dude he's dressed as a teddy bear, but he says he's a nanny cam, and that's why the footage is coming from him, which I don't know if that technology existed in the 90s, but I guess we have to allow it.
Yeah.
And they're invited to, like, it's not clear. They're invited to some party, some house party, and they get there and the house is empty and a bunch of crazy shit starts happening. And at first the guys think it's just like effects and like, whoa, this is crazy. And then shit gets crazier and crazier and crazier. And then they go up into the attic and they find a girl strapped up and a bunch of guys performing an exorcism on her. And she's in pain and it looks like these guys are like really torturing her. And the guys start flying around the room. Hands come through the wall. It reminds me of John Cocteau's Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
Where like the hangers are actual hands. And what makes the effect work is it's obviously a digital effect of like a hand coming through the wall. But on top of it, you've got the filter of it looking like a VHS from the 90s. So it has this very uncanny realism of like, ooh, it like looks so real.
Yeah.
And it's just really cool stuff. Like the door closes and, there's the window in the door that has a wooden frame around it. But the wooden frame closes so it looks like the wood is growing to lock them in. And like that looks really cool. It's just really cool looking stuff.
Yeah, that was more kind of experimental in that sense than the rest of the other short films.
I think there was more money put into that one for sure.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
The hand thing is scary.
Yeah.
And it works so well.
There's something so scary about hands. I remember seeing an interview with Wes Craven talking about Freddy Krueger and his like knife glove, and like hands are often there's a sort of connotation of hands of they mean friendship or togetherness. Like you think about like, you know, images of people holding hands, it always means like coming together. So like a hand as something menacing is always so scary. Even like when you see like remember Blair Witch, there was like bloody handprints on the walls, like something about that is always so disturbing.
I mean, why is that though?
I think it's got to be something deep within our lizard brain and the way that we react to a hand coming at us.
Well, was it? I was thinking more of like an idle hands thing.
What do you mean?
Idle hands are the devil's playthings.
Yeah.
Right? Because you do with your hands. You very rarely do with other things.
No, absolutely.
Your hands pick up things. Your hands sense things. You know, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
Touch is a big deal. But yeah, it could be any of that stuff. I think the story is kind of weak. In 10/31/98,
it's very short on story, really.
It's really just like the effects are fun, and that's really it.
Yeah. It does have a twist ending, which again brings us back to the feminism aspect of it, which is these guys are going to leave, and they're like, "No, we have to help this girl because she's screaming bloody murder." So they go and they save her, and they bring her into the car, and they're like running away from her, and we at this moment think that these guys in this house were torturing this girl. But wouldn't you know it, Nadia, she actually was possessed. And then the girl disappears, and then the car is on a train track, and the guys are stuck in the car, and you see the girl in front of the car looking at them, and the train comes and kills all the guys. So the girl was evil.
That was crazy.
Women in these movies are they are your ruination.
Yeah, they're so evil and menacing.
Yeah.
But it also, like, if you really pick apart the story, it doesn't really make sense.
Oh, no, it makes no sense. Because it's like, who invited them to that house?
Who invited them?
Why would they think hands coming out of the wall is like an effect you could buy at, like, the Halloween shop? The
idea was that they were thinking, like, it was a haunted house party.
Right.
But even then, it's like, I think at some point, you would think that something's very wrong here.
When you go through a house and no one's there, you invited somewhere and it's an empty house, you'd be like, what the fuck is up? But these guys seem to not care.
If I was invited somewhere and I see a giant house, like it was a big house and a lot of rooms, and there's no one in it, I would turn around and run away. Because that's definitely a murder house. Like, it's either two things. It's a murder house or a porn house.
Yeah.
And if there's no one there, it's definitely not a porn house.
Yeah.
Also, if she's like being possessed or something, it's like the way she got rid of the people that were performing exorcism was that she kind of, used like telekinesis to.
Yeah, they start flying all around the room.
They fly around the room, and then the hands come out and get them, whatever, right? Why on earth would she trick the other dudes, like moving the car instead of doing something more physical?
Because women, alive or dead, evil or not, just want to hurt men. That's what the VHS movie is about. By the way, what I like, before the twist ending happens, what I liked was that they saved her. Because in the real world, the dark history of exorcisms are about patriarchal societies where a woman's like, I want to vote and read a book, and they're like, the devil's in her, and they just torture her until she dies.
Right.
Like, that's what exorcisms actually are. And that's a fascinating history that no one ever makes movies about, because you can't help yourself to then like make her actually possessed.
I mean, the closest thing we do have is the Exorcism of Emily Rose, but then they made it an actual real devil story, and not like this poor woman had mental health issues and her parents tied her up and starved her to death and tortured her, right?
But it ends up in this movie, she is really
whatever.
So those are the stories. So let's go through them again. The wraparound story is called Tape 56. Mm-hmm. Then you've got the Amateur Night, which is the succubus story. Mm-hmm. Then you've got Second Honeymoon, which is about the murderous lesbian couple. Then Tuesday the 17th, which is the Friday the 13th takeoff. And then you've got the sick thing that happened to Emily when she was younger, which is the weird one that makes no sense. Is it aliens? Is it the Brood? And then you've got 10/31/98. Let me see. What is your ranking of these stories?
Well, how I ranked it was the sick thing that happened to Emily when she was younger. That was my absolute favorite, even though it made no sense. I thought it was just really well put together. Amateur Night was the second.
Okay.
Third, Tuesday 17th, because of my theory that the final girl gets revenge. That's why I liked it.
Yeah.
More than the actual story. Yeah. 10/31/98 number 4 because I like special effects. And then second Honeymoon is really the last one that I don't know. I was not really into the story.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me see. I'm not sure what mine would be. I think my favorite one. Darn, what would be my favorite one? It's so hard because it's almost like apples and oranges. They do different things.
Right.
Some are scarier, some are weirder, some are smarter. 10/31/98, although has really cool effects and is a cool haunted house story, is probably the weakest.
Yeah.
In terms of being a story. I might agree with you that the sick thing that happened to Emily when she was younger is the best one. It's certainly the most thought-provoking. Tuesday the 17th is the most clever in terms of genre and being a meta commentary about film. It's probably the one story in this film that seems to really fit the overall idea of VHS tape.
Yeah.
Second Honeymoon, it certainly got me with its shocking ending, but when I watched it the second time and I knew it, I was just like, it was falling apart for me because I was like, well, why don't you just have a girlfriend? Just break up with divorce your husband and have a girlfriend. Like, why do you have to kill this? What does this mean?
Yeah, there's really no rewatch value to that story.
Yeah. And Amateur Night, it's a good idea, but there's just too much broiness.
Yeah.
It takes too long for the succubus to start fucking shit up.
Yeah, that's what my thing was. The pacing was too much.
Yeah.
It took too long. But I did like, the reason why I ranked this so high was because I liked is a different monster. I like the creativity of
and a feminine
beast.
monster.
And a feminine monster.
Yeah.
That, isn't like all women are horrible necessarily. Because, they're horrible to her.
That's true.
So it's kind of
she's only
like,
fighting back.
She's really, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, she didn't really ask for any of them to just take her home. She couldn't talk to them.
Right.
So they basically, just take her.
If she wasn't a succubus, she would have been raped.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and because she can't talk, because she can literally only say, I like you, or you like, right?
Yeah.
So, which is just 2 out of 3 of the words that she can speak.
Yeah.
She can't say no. And they don't read her body. They don't care. They give a shit about her body language.
Right.
Like, 'cause she doesn't really seem like she wants to go with them.
Consent is not a thing with these guys in this film.
Well, any of the men in these movies, really.
Yeah, that's true.
But she can't say no. But she fights back how she can, which is being a monster and devouring them. But yeah, again, so it's like they deserved it.
And I'm trying to remember how the wraparound story ends. And I guess it's so weak I can't even fucking remember. And I watched it 2 days ago.
So it's a bunch of guys.
Yeah.
I actually do remember. A bunch of guys go try to find the tape together.
Yeah.
And one of them stays in the room with the dead, which again is a huge red flag. He stays in the room with the dead body watching the VHS tapes because the main dude told him to, so they can find this tape and make money. Which it was so weird, vague instructions. I feel like any normal person would have been like, I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
This is weird. It's like, all he said, like, how do I know which tape? And the main dude's like, well, all he told me was, you'll know it when you see it.
Right.
What the fuck does that mean?
Right. Because they're all well-crafted horror stories.
Yeah, like, so I'm like, what do you think you're looking for?
Right,
like,
right.
which snuff film does this guy want? You would never know.
And is it clear, or any of the stories we see supposed to be the tape?
I don't think so.
Maybe there never was the tape.
But that's another thing is then,
it was just
so what?
meant to trap them? Because they die, right? Don't the dudes die?
The dead person turns out to be some sort of monster and, like, dispatches everybody.
Oh, right. The dead body's not really a dead body.
Yeah. But it's like, now that we're talking about it, it literally falls apart. Like, what is this story? This makes no sense.
The wraparound story, it should just be like Creepshow. It should just be like a puppet guy who's like, welcome to VHS, boils and ghouls.
Yeah, so basically everyone, like, they realize when they're calling out, trying to find these people, they're all gone.
Yes.
And then, like, the last guy that was watching the tapes is, you see the dead body, like, come in and
then it's credits.
And then, yeah.
Yeah. So, do you know the term mumblecore?
Yes.
All right, what's mumblecore?
Well, please correct me if I'm wrong.
Sure.
Mumblecore was a early thousands film movement that's still kind of around, but not really. Where it's very low budget, independent.
Yeah.
Films, usually using nobodies.
Yeah.
And it's films that aren't necessarily about anything. They kind of just really about dialogue and character study. Right.
And very realistic acting. And the realistic acting with the dialogue is where the mumble idea comes from.
Right, because they're like, mumbling. Yeah. And there's two
the
directors.
The Duplass brothers
Thank you. Yes.
are a big part of the movement. And I, to be honest with you, it's not a movement that I ever cared that much for. I've seen some of those movies, but I was never a mumblecore stan. So
is anybody?
I don't know. So the film critic Amy Nicholson, who I tend to like, I think she made up this term. She made up the term mumble gore.
Ooh.
And VHS falls into the mumble gore movement, which was low budget, not, realistic, bad acting, West Coast horror films. I
feel like, though, so many horror movies fall into those kind of category.
I agree, but I guess it was a certain time and place. Film movements are
sometimes vaguely defined.
Right. They're not necessarily something that the creators are doing as much as they might be something that critics are looking back and creating something or creating something. I don't know. Both mumblecore and mumblegore are terms that don't do much for me.
Yeah.
But I felt like I had to at least mention that this is considered one of the tentpole movies of the mumblegore movement.
Okay.
Well, that was VHS Part 1. We're going to take a spooky break, and then we'll talk about VHS 2. Welcome back to Pop Culture Man Children, PCMC. I'm your host, Mike Bongiorno. I'm here with gnarly Nadia Kader.
Oh, that one's okay.
Gnarly.
Gnarly.
I pronounce the G, don't you? Gnarly.
Sounds like a Swedish greeting.
That's the thing about you, Nadia. You're always gnashing your teeth. Anyway, this is comedy for no one. Pop Culture Man Children is a podcast about fandom, pop culture, movies, TV, video games, comic books, rarely music. It comes out every Wednesday. We have theme episodes, usually every other week. This month, we've had 4 theme episodes, all about scary stuff, because Halloween is an important time for Pop Culture Man Children. Mm-hmm. And we are available anywhere podcasts are found. As a matter of fact, PCMC is now available on a couple of new platforms, which I'll be honest with you, I never even heard of until we got on them.
Ooh.
Radio.com.
Radio.com?
I don't know. Janine said it sounded like something an old person would make up.
That's literally what it sounds
like.
But
we're on it. And something called TuneIn. So we're all over.
Wow.
Yeah. Gnarly Nadia, we are going to talk about VHS 2. It was originally titled SVHS. And that's because in the 90s, they made a better generation of VHS that was called SVHS, which meant Super VHS. But I guess that's just too esoteric a reference for people in the movie. Like, I don't think anyone would get it. You'd have to have been there and remembered what SVHS was.
I've never heard of this.
You never saw SVHS?
No. I grew up in the 90s.
It's not like... It's just a slightly better resolution. It's not like a different medium. I mean, if I showed you an SVHS compared to a VHS, you'd see no difference in it, really. It could have just been marketing fiddle faddle.
Right.
But anyway, the movie's called VHS 2. The framing story of this movie is very similar to the first one, although there's a female character in it. It is about a private investigator and his partner, and the private investigator, it begins with him watching people through a hotel window, and we see breasts. So again, and by the way, I actually watched the time code. It's 1 minute in. And I wonder if they did that on purpose. I wonder if they were like, 1 minute into this movie, we gotta have tits. 1 minute, like, because it's almost like too perfectly 1 minute in, there's tits already.
Yeah.
It's not violent like the first movie, but it is violent in the sense that the character doesn't know that she's being viewed. And it's a private eye who is basically, this man is having an affair on his wife with this woman, and he's taking this image to go back to the wife and see, you know, private eyes for the most part in reality just follow around cheating spouses.
Right.
So, but he's not, even for a private eye, he's unethical, because we see him call up the guy and go, hey, I've got this footage of you fucking your girlfriend. Your wife hired me, but if I give her the tape, she's going to stop paying me. So I figured I'd go to you and I'll give you the tape for so much. So he basically extorts the guy. And so even for a private eye, he's a scumbag.
Yeah.
And he's got this redheaded partner who, I don't know if she's his girlfriend as well or just his private eye partner. And they get a call about this kid who's missing. And he was last seen at this place, this house. So they're going looking for this missing kid, and they go into this house, and it's the same setup. It might be the exact same house in part one. I'm not clear on this, but it's basically a dark house with TV screens and VHSs strewn about, and it's very much the same kind of wraparound as the first movie.
Yeah, they come in from a different entrance than the first people, so you can't even tell if it's the same house or not.
But I think there's a scene, quick shot where they show pictures on the wall of the house, and I believe one of the portraits is the guy who's dead in the chair in part one.
Yeah.
So it might be the same house.
Which, again, it's really a vague kind of...
It makes no sense, really.
No, it doesn't. But it does... Boobs in the first minute and the scummy private eye does fit into my theory that we're watching people... what I said before is that we're watching scumbags die. So that's kind of... And it's like... It's just snuff, really.
Yes.
Because you never see like cameras that aren't theirs, really.
Yes.
But you have to assume that these people with cameras, whoever's sending them to the house or whatever, is taking that footage, right? So like they know that those people are gonna die because they told them to get to the house. So maybe they're just becoming part of the collection.
Huh. That's interesting.
So I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah. When they get there, they find a laptop with video on it of the kid that they're looking for. And he's talking weirdly and making no sense. And they split up. The private eye goes to look in the back, and the woman stays in the front room watching videos. It makes no sense, because if it is the same house, in part two, it has the effect that it like mesmerizes her or hypnotizes her. The more she watches, the more she's like comatose, which is not what happens in part one.
No.
It doesn't make any sense.
It's also, the videos are in a different... They come in on the first floor. They break in through like a window.
Yeah.
Because his mom said that this window is always open. Yeah. Where in the first movie, they had to go upstairs to find the room with the dead body and all the TVs.
Maybe it's not the same house.
Maybe it's not, but it also, like, again, it doesn't really make sense. None of this makes sense.
It seems like they're trying to do a little bit more with it by adding a private investigator. That also makes it more genre-y. Because a private eye is such a genre archetype. Yeah.
But he's also a scumbag, like the first movie was Scumbag. So it's similar in that sense. They're watching scumbags die.
I do wonder if they added a female to the wraparound story and made the female the primary viewer of the stories within the story on purpose, as maybe a criticism, maybe dealing with... I don't know if there was criticism of part one or not, but maybe dealing with the problem of part one. It's not like this movie is any less sexist, but you at least have supposedly you have a female watching the movies. Yeah.
Maybe.
Okay.
It could have also been just like, hey, we did this the first movie. Maybe now let's not do this. Let's do something different.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think there was that much thought put into that decision.
So, the wraparound story in this film is called Tape 49, which, just like the first movie, it's just a tape and a number. So the first story within a story is called Phase 1 Clinical Trials. And this story is interesting because it's very science fiction-y. But it's also very, I feel like I've seen it 1,000 times before. It's this guy who has one eye, and it begins with the scientist gives him a bionic eye, and as part of the trial, they're going to film everything that he sees. Mm-hmm. So we're seeing... The camera's literally in his eye, so we're seeing through his eye. And whenever he looks in the mirror, you see like he's got like this robot kind of eye.
Well, I mean, I don't even would say it was a robot eye. It's literally like a glint.
Yeah.
So it's like something shinies on his eye.
Yeah,
which looks like a camera lens.
Right, it's true. And for some reason, the camera allows him to see dead people that he wouldn't see normally. Like somehow... and because his brain is getting used to having the two different eyes, it keeps glitching. Like he'll see dead people and then they'll go away, and then so that's happening.
It doesn't make sense,
right?
But also another part of this is that when he's leaving the doctor's office or hospital, wherever he is, there's a young woman there with a partially shaved head like mine, who is just is staring at him,
right?
And he can't figure out why, and he's just like really creeped out, and she just watches him leave. Mm-hmm. And then when he goes to his house, which also we don't know anything about this guy, but he lives in a giant fucking mansion.
And plays video games.
And
that's what we know about him.
But he lives in a house by himself. Like a huge LA house.
Yeah.
Makes no sense.
Yeah.
But she like gets to... At one point in the story, she comes back and she comes to his house.
Right.
And she's like, look, just let me in. I got to talk to you.
Right.
And that's when she reveals, like, you're seeing them, aren't they? Right? You're seeing them or things.
She is deaf and she got a cochlear implant, and that allows her to hear ghosts. So she hears ghosts and he sees ghosts.
But here's the thing that also doesn't make sense. Is that she saw him.
Yeah.
And knew because...
Right. What about
him did she see and like, oh, he's going to see ghosts? Because she saw him before he saw the ghost.
Right. It's not like he's reacting to a ghost in front of her. She just sees him. I mean, maybe she just sees the eye and goes like, oh, there's something up with him. I wonder if he can see ghosts. But also, what does hearing ghosts mean? Like, just she hears boo all day? Ooh. God damn, there's so many ghosts in this room. I can't see them, but they won't shut the fuck up. Boo.
Yeah, that makes no fucking sense.
And of course, so she goes over, and by the way, she's such a manic pixie dream girl. She's really, really hot, and she's like, cool looking. And at one point, she hears the ghost of her creepy molester uncle, and he sees the ghost of the creepy molester uncle, and she's like, I know how to make him go away, and she like fucks the guy.
Yeah, she takes off her shirt. Like, the guy's scared, and then she takes off her shirt, and again, boobs. Yeah. And he's like, whoa, what are you doing? She's like, this will work. And then they fuck?
Which doesn't make sense, because if her uncle's creepy, why would her fucking him work? Wouldn't he be like, oh, cool, fucking?
Well, I guess he's that type of molester that's like possessive. Like, hey, that's my cooch.
God. What's creepy is the uncle is a fat white dude in tighty whities, that's become a trope, which itself we could do a whole fucking dissertation on why, there's so much porn in the world, yet it's a trope in horror now to have average looking naked people or old naked people. Think about it. There's an average looking naked dude in It Follows. There are old naked people in Hereditary.
That was the scariest part of that movie.
Yeah, there's an old naked woman in It Chapter 2. So it's weird that nudity that's non-sexual gazy is played for horror.
Like repulsion? Like in The Shining?
Oh, yeah.
With the old naked lady?
But it also switches in that one, too. It goes from, oh, she's hot, and he touches her, and then she turns into the old like hag. Yeah,
but again, it's using the old naked body as this is the real horror.
Yeah. Age.
Yeah. Also, I don't know. I've never been a fat white guy, so I can't speak from experience. But
I can.
Okay, so if you were, heavy at that point in your life, did you wear tighty whities? I feel like they would be uncomfortable.
I wore tighty whities as a child and like stopped when I was like 13. I don't know who wear. I don't know. I feel like it's almost. I mean, look, if you wear tighty whities, right into the show, but I feel like it's more of just a funny meme. Like, haha, he's wearing tighty whities. I don't know. I don't know any grown up man that does.
It's like a nerd thing.
Yeah,
like when
it doesn't look good on anybody. I don't care how hot the guy is. Tighty whities look terrible.
Also, why would you wear white underwear?
Yeah, you're just asking for trouble.
Also, like, why would the ghost be in tighty whities? Like, did he die?
I guess
in tighty whities.
I don't know, but how does she know? Oh, that sounds like my uncle.
Well, I guess he said creepy shit to her. Maybe
so
that's
is the ghost just... But you don't see him speaking, so you just hear his heavy breathing. She's like, I know that heavy breathing. That's my creepy uncle.
Actually, that's a really good point. You don't see his mouth moving.
No. But she's like, I could hear him.
Yeah, that's also a stupid thing. I could hear ghosts. You could see ghosts. What?
It's very science fiction-y. But don't you feel like you've seen this before in sci-fi and horror? This type of thing, like you're getting a new body part. Like, think about, like, oh, you're getting a new hand, and it came off of a cadaver, and the cadaver was a murderer, and now this hand kills people. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like this has been done a lot.
In 2007, Jessica Alba starred in
Idle
The
Hands.
Eye.
Oh, The Eye. Sorry.
That's another movie.
She's also in that movie, too.
Oh, well, in The Eye, she is a blind violinist who gets a experimental procedure where she gets the eyes of a recently deceased woman. Mm-hmm. But when she looks in the mirror, she sees the deceased woman. Like, she somehow didn't know what she looked like because she's been blind her whole life. So when she looks in the mirror, she's like seeing something different. And then when someone points to a picture of her, she's like, who is that? Like,
she doesn't realize she's hot ass Jessica Alba.
No, she thinks she's and then she sees this ghost. Yeah. So it's a very stupid and forgettable movie.
I've never heard of that movie. It's The Eye?
The only reason I remember it is because when I was younger, I would see literally any horror movie with my cousins. Okay. And that was one of them.
Okay.
Yeah. It sucked, and it's very forgettable.
Yeah.
That's
that's
literally
a good point. It's literally the same thing.
Yeah.
It's literally the same thing. I guess one image that I like in this story is a couple times he'll like go to his bedroom and he'll see like somebody's under his sheets, and like it's a body laying right in the middle of his bed, like wrapped up, and it's like that's a pretty scary image.
But
like,
you don't see a head. That's
it's just a body. It's just like, a body's there and it's lifeless, but you're like, is it gonna stay lifeless? Is it gonna move? Like, imagine. It's just a scary image. Imagine going home and walking into your bedroom and you see that. You see clearly the outline of a body that you don't expect to be there under your sheets.
I have seen that. But that's also because of my mind playing tricks on me. It's just like I was too lazy to fix my bed.
I thought it was just because your bionic eyes.
Yeah, my bionic eyes. No, but it would just be like crumbled blankets.
Yeah.
Or like pajamas under my sheets that I didn't, put away.
Yeah.
But being home alone and being in that mindset, like that's scary.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think, and seeing there are parts in the movie where he'd like turn around and he'd see the ghost and it'd be like right in front of his face and then it'd just disappear.
Yeah. As much as I think it's a stupid segment, it scared me a lot.
Yeah,
because it's full of jumps. There's a lot of jumps and they come out of nowhere, and a jump is a jump. You can't be too intellectual for a jump scare, because a jump scare is completely a physical thing. It's loud noise is being thrown at you when you weren't expecting it.
Yeah.
You're gonna have a reaction to it.
Well, I took it. The reason why I liked it so much was because it played into being home alone. Mm-hmm. And like the times that I've been home alone, I'm hyper aware that I'm home alone because I live with my partner. And before that, I lived with roommates. So I've never really been in a apartment or a house by myself. And then, so I like think of these things because I watch horror movies. Mm-hmm. What would happen if I turned around and there was someone behind me? What would happen if I go in my bedroom and there's just like a shape of my bed? So that kind of played into my personal fears.
But it should have played out that way. The hot girl coming over and fucking him, that doesn't happen. To me.
I think she shouldn't have been in the movie at all.
Right. It should have just been him in his house.
Because in the beginning of the movie, when he gets the implant, the doctor's like, your body has to get used to seeing from two different eyes.
Yeah.
And you might see things.
Yeah.
And he was like, what do you mean see things? Like, you might have... He said hallucinations or something.
Right.
And it's just like, just let us know what happens.
Do you think they knew about it?
Oh, they definitely did.
Oh, so you think the doctors were in on it?
I don't know if they were, like, I thought that's where it was going. And actually would have been a more interesting story where it's like, it's really like scientists funding this idea or like trying to play this idea of trying to find the paranormal more than like being implants.
If there were a feature film, that's what it would be. You would find out at the end that the scientist is like, I'm trying to see to the other side.
Bullshit. Yeah.
So the second story is called A Ride in the Park, and boy, do I hate this one. Let me just say, I guess I should say this now. I think VHS 2 is a bad movie. There's some things about it I like, but I think none of the stories are better than the stories in part 1, and altogether it's a worse film.
Okay.
A Ride in the Park is interesting because I think it's supposed to be a comedy. It's the most funny of any of the VHS stories of 1 and 2. And it's basically, A Ride in the Park is basically a guy's got a GoPro on and he's, riding his bike in the park and he gets bit by a zombie, and then it's like a zombie with a GoPro. And like he goes to a little kid's birthday party, and it's a lot of, there's really no story to it. And there's a lot of like dumb gags.
It's like, also, again, which I'm going to see this reading everywhere, is like before he puts on the GoPro, he's like talking to his girlfriend and he's like, I love you. And they're just so mushy. I'm like, I want you to fucking die. Yeah. And it just plays into we just watching annoying people die.
Yeah.
I'm totally fine with that.
Right.
I liked that the zombies were traditional slow moving zombies and still scary.
Yeah, I like that as well. Because
I feel like since the more recent zombie movies have all been fast-moving zombies. But I'm not saying that I think necessarily it works. I'm just saying I appreciate original form.
They're also flesh-eating. They eat each other. They eat people.
Yeah, they're eating everything.
Yeah, which I like.
Also, what was interesting, there wasn't much of a story. It's really just a zombie with a GoPro. But I like at the end is when the zombie was becoming self-aware.
I don't like that.
Oh, you don't like that?
Because I feel like they tried to end this very goofy segment with something that they thought was poignant.
Yeah.
Because he gets a call, he butt dials his girlfriend, and he hears her voice, and then he sees his face reflected in his iPhone, and it's supposed to be like, he sees himself and he remembers his humanity, and then he shoots himself, and it's like, I mean, you've been dumb the whole way through. Just end dumb. Like, don't try to be poignant.
Okay,
in the end.
I respect that criticism.
But you liked it. You liked the end.
This is one of the movies I liked the least. But I just appreciate that they were trying to do something different. But again, it's weak.
Well, in general, I feel like there's nothing new to do with zombies. I think we've done it all.
Zombies are dead.
Yeah, we need to put
zombies to rest.
Yeah. We need to put the zombie genre, we need to like retire it. We need to like stop it for like 10 years and then we could come back to it. I feel like there's nothing new to do.
Well, I mean, there's the Walking Dead's still on. Someone's watching it. I don't know who.
I don't know who. Probably a lot of people. And isn't there like a third one now? Isn't there like another new spinoff of it?
I don't know.
I never watched that show.
Isn't it the same story? I watched the pilot and I was like, I've seen this a million times. I'm all right. And then like when I've talked to people who like it, their whole argument was like, yeah, but it's not really about the zombies, like how the people are monsters. And I'm like, we've seen this. This has been done. Yeah. We get it. How many seasons does this need?
Right. It's on season, I think, 32 now, 33. So the next story is called Safe Haven. And you know what? What do you think of this story?
I thought it was the second weakest story.
All right. So we're kind of in agreement. I don't like this story at all. And the problem with this story is it's super long and they clearly spent a lot of money on it. So, and you get the feeling that they think this is like the star piece of the movie. It seems to have like, the fact that it's so long seems to have like a privilege that the other stories don't. But this story is super, first of all, it's super Orientalism. or super orientalist. It's about this Asian cult, and they're going to these video journalists, or like they're going to this cult compound to interview this cult leader. And
the journalists were also from the same country. I looked it up after the movie because there's no indication, and I couldn't pick up what language it was. They're actually in Indonesia.
Oh, okay.
But the journalists were also from the same country.
Are they?
Yeah. Though it sounded like one of them, like the female journalist, it sounded almost like she wasn't speaking in as a first speaker, first language. Yeah. It sounded like she was speaking second language, but they all knew the language. So it made me think that they were from Indonesia too.
Yeah. Okay.
But she also looked mixed race.
I still don't know. I still would say that it's a little orientalist.
I won't argue with you on that. It is.
Because it's definitely like, here's this weird cult and this weird cult leader who's like this small little man, and like I don't know. It's too long. It's too boring. It takes too long to get there. It's kind of all over the place.
Yeah, and then
it's got subplots in it, which is like, I don't care that people are cheating on each other. It's just,
it had a weird purity thing that kind of felt shoehorned in.
Yeah.
And then and like, spoiler alert, yes, it's a cult. Yes, they're all murdering each other, like committing suicide and murdering each other so that they can go to like the better place. Right. But also, it's like a demon thing.
Right. It doesn't make sense because he's constantly talking about how, like, we could have heaven on earth. But it seems like what the cult does is bring about a demon into this world.
Yeah, a demon that, by the way, looks like I don't know what it was, a cow with a long neck.
Like, it looks like a real like like old Nick, like horns and like goat legs.
It sucked.
He is the child of two of the journalists are having an affair or something. So it's like there's the main journalist guy and then his wife, but then she's fucking one of the camera guys, and she's pregnant with the camera guy's baby, and then the demon comes out, and that's kind of cool because you see like this giant demon coming out of her body.
Like, yeah, that's terrifying. But then when you see the demon, it's like not scary.
Yeah, and then the demon calls the guy Papa, and it's like, what the fuck? What do you want me to do with this? I don't know. I just it drags the whole affair down. It's not my least favorite, but it's
still bad.
It's still real fucking bad.
I gotta say about VHS 2 as a whole, when I was watching it, I was actually having a lot of fun.
More than with 1?
Yes, because I felt like 1, there were some segments that weren't paced right, so they kind of slow. But I felt like in 2 it was a lot quicker.
Interesting.
So I agree to disagree, but that's what I liked about it, and the fact that there were like jump scares in a lot of these movies, and I liked that thrill, and by the end of it, I felt good about it.
I think 2 might be more scary or have more moments of visceral fear.
But it's worth it.
And you might be right that it's better paced. Not counting this one story, Safe Haven. And it's not because it's really badly paced.
Yeah. But I mean, it's way too slow moving, definitely. But I mean, overall, all like 4 movies in the wraparound just happened a lot faster than the first movie. And I was grateful for that.
And we keep going back to the wraparound story and the private investigator's partner who's watching it. Like, she becomes more like, at one point she's got like blood coming out of her nose, like she's getting a nosebleed, and she seems like mesmerized by watching these videos, which again, it's not quite fucking clear what's supposed to be happening in the wraparound.
I don't know, because it's also like no one's dying in this time. So it's kind of like, at least in the first wraparound movie, people were disappearing, like what happens in horror movies with a group. But in this one, it's only 2, and the guy PI is looking for that kid or looking around, and she's just in the room. And the whole time when they keep coming back to them, nothing much is happening to her, to a point where I didn't even notice anything really was happening to her. She's just becoming unresponsive, which isn't interesting.
Yeah. I'm trying to see do they both have the same amount of stories? Or does one movie have more story than the other?
I think the first movie has one more. So I think the first movie has 5, and then the second one, and in the wraparound, and the second movie has 4 in the wraparound.
Because it's got that super long one.
Yeah, actually, that's probably why I think it's better paced, only because it has one less movie.
Well, that's one of the interesting... I guess that's one of the things about anthology. It's even one of the things like when you read a short story collection. Like
in every anthology, there's always like one story that's like 50 pages long.
It's like, are we here? Let's do this.
Yeah, can we like get... I'm like, I don't want a novella.
Don't throw a novella into the short story... Because I've got a pace going here, and like I'm predicting when it's end, and you keep going.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't need that. Okay, so the last story. Boy, do I hate this one. This is the absolute worst one. Nadia, let's talk about it. Well, tell me about it.
Slumber party alien abduction. It's not even trying to be clever here.
That's it. That's basically it.
That's literally a bunch of shitty kids.
Oh boy, they shitty.
Really obnoxious children are in a house by themselves for some reason. Like mostly a bunch of little boys around like 14 years old with their older sister.
They're pranking each other like crazy.
They're pranking each other. The GoPro is on a dog, so we're seeing it from their dog's point of view,
which is kind of clever but doesn't really do much. They don't do much with that.
I literally thought the dog was going to die for so long.
I think the dog does die
at the end. I thought throughout the whole thing, like they were going to do something terrible to this dog because they were just shitty kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the dog dies at the end.
Right, which sucks because it's like, I don't know, the dog should have lived.
Yeah, I never like animals that die.
Me
in
neither.
Movies. I'm always like worried about them.
It also feels like the dog should have survived because the dog is the one sentient creature here that I give a shit about.
Yeah,
because the kids suck.
They're also, what's never explained is why they're left alone. Because their parents are with them at some vacation house, and their teenage older sister.
They leave, though.
The parents leave. Right. We don't know why.
Right.
And they're gone all night. Where the fuck are these parents? They're on vacation.
And
where are you going?
Yeah. And when I say they prank each other, they like, oh my God. Like the younger kids pee in fucking super soakers and like spray the older sister and her boyfriend, and then the older sister and the boyfriend are fucking and they like come in the room and play loud music, and then like the sister catches the younger brother jerking off and
with
she's
the
like
camera, which I feel like that's literally a crime.
Yeah, and she's like, I'm gonna put this on the internet. It's just the whole thing is pranks, and it's just like, you know what, I don't like any of you. And then you start to hear loud noises outside and see really bright lights. And it's like, what the fuck is this? And it's aliens. But they're like gray aliens. Like they're like the alien that like you see on like shitty shows about abduction.
It's literally the aliens. You find the costume at the Halloween store for like $10.
Yeah.
It's a rubber mask and a stocking suit.
Yeah.
Very boring.
Yeah. Gray aliens don't scare me. And just in general, I don't like scary aliens. Unless it's the xenomorph from the Alien series, but that's a different thing entirely. Like horror aliens, I don't like. Because what is their point? Like in this movie, they come and they land on this lake house, and they're like, "What are they? Are they pranking humans? Like, what? Like, why are you like? They don't seem to do anything except go ooga booga and like scare people. Like, what are you doing?
I don't know. I was also really confused about like because what was happening was that you would hear the loud noises, almost like contact, like boom, 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 and then like a bright light.
Yeah.
And the kids would be transported somewhere else. Like at one point, the first time it happens, they're transported and then they're in the lake.
Right.
And they don't know how they got there. So I was trying to figure out, and it seemed like after these things were happening, they weren't that scared anymore. The first few times. Yeah. So I was wondering, were the aliens doing some sort of experiment and it like temporarily erases their memory?
Oh, I don't know.
Because that's what seemed like it was happening, and then like towards the end, it seemed like they were doing it over and over again and like trying to grab them the second time. Like I don't really. What was their agenda? We don't know.
To bore me, I think. It sucked.
I liked the noise, though. I feel like the noise was scary.
Yeah, the noise is scary.
But that's really it. Like
but that's personal to you. You find noises scary.
Again, yeah.
But you know what's annoying is the noises start before they realize there's aliens. And it's like, all right, I get you kids are yelling at each other and calling each other the F word. But like, what do you think is happening? Like, it takes too long for them to catch on to the fact that an alien invasion is obviously happening.
Yeah, they're really stupid.
Oh, fuck this movie. And then we get back to the wraparound story, and we see that the woman is like dead. She's lying down. The detective comes in, and he's like, oh no, he's all upset. So I guess he is her husband or boyfriend. He looks at the video, and you see in the video of the kid that they're looking for, the kid shoots himself. So the kid kills himself. But then you see in the video them walking. So it's like, oh, he must have just did it the second before they broke in. And then the kid with his head like basically blown off comes out of nowhere. It's the same thing that happens in 1, which is like scary, but also makes no sense. That it's like, I'm dead but alive. Because it's not necessarily zombies. It's like...
Well, well, actually, so in the first movie, it's like it wasn't a dead guy. It was like some kind of creature, or maybe the dead guy was possessed. But like in the second one, he actually, after he shoots himself, he gets up. Yeah. So and you notice that his jaw is off.
And his tongue is like hanging out.
So that can actually happen if you... That if you don't aim the gun right when you shoot yourself, you could shoot your own jaw off and live. I've read about it. It's pretty horrible. But anyway, so like the kid shoots himself, and I guess there's no blood on the floor. Like, and then he leaves off screen, and the couple come in, and then they're in the house. So it's like, what happened? But
then she gets possessed because she comes back to life, and she's like a monster now.
Yeah, she's like crawling around. Her body's contorted.
It just feels like it's half-baked. It's like, what are scary things? Dead bodies? Sure. What's scary? Someone being creepy. It's just like, let's just throw a bunch of horror movie tropes and not justify any of what's supposed to be happening here.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. That's what happens. It just seems like, let's just throw all this stuff that we like about horror movies in a low-budget movie.
In the wraparound. It seems like they put very little care into the wraparound stories.
Which I feel like, because they're the wraparound, they're the literal bookends of the story, you should put more care into it, because it has to make sense. It's literally holding the movie together.
Yeah, but not.
But also, it's doing a very poor job.
I haven't been talking about the directors because I don't care about them. But I do want to point out that the zombie one that I hate, called A Ride in the Park, is directed by 2 people. And one of them is Eduardo Sanchez, who co-directed The Blair Witch Project.
Oh, okay.
So he's sort of like an important figure in found footage horror. But
great.
I guess I don't like this movie because I don't like the stories. I'm trying to think, like, if I could rank them. The framing narrative is not very good. The first one with the eye, it has a lot of scary moments, but it's kind of a stupid movie. The Ride in the Park, I think, stupid. Safe Haven's boring. Slumber Party is stupid. I guess I don't like the stories. I don't know. I guess my favorite would be the first one, the one with the bionic eye. Because at least, I don't know, the naked fat dude in the tighty whities scared me.
I was terrified of that because of what I said. Like, it ties into my personal fear of like really being home alone and being haunted. But overall, yes, overall terrible movie. VHS 2, not great.
Yeah,
I had a lot of fun watching it, but the more I think about it, the less I like it.
Like I said at the top, I think that these can be fun movies just to throw on. Maybe even I watched them alone, but I could see it being very fun in a party setting.
Yeah.
There is a third movie called VHS Viral, which neither of us have seen. I'm going to try to check it out just because I'm interested now. And then there was that 4-episode Snapchat, whatever the fuck that was.
I mean, can you even find, like, how do you find a series on Snapchat?
Yeah, I don't know where it is now, if it exists now at all.
The whole point of Snapchat was that you could send people stuff and then it disappears. So why would it make sense to have a series on it?
I don't know. I don't get it.
It's weird.
It's very odd.
Can I just speak overall about the first 2 movies?
Please do.
When you suggested to me, let's talk about this for the podcast, I was actually disappointed. Because
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I really love talking to you about horror movies. I really don't have a lot of friends that like horror. You know, like similar to what you said. But I don't like found footage.
I'm kind of with you on this. But I think found footage works better in the short form medium. I think it works better with short stories than with features.
Yeah, because watching a feature length found footage film like the paranormal movies they just take so much out of me.
I also think low budget found is better because it's actual handheld, whereas I think glossy Hollywood found footage movies are like really good, like red cameras that are like pretending to be shaky or whatever. It sucks. Yeah.
I don't like the shaky cameras because it pulls me out of the moment of watching a film. So it takes me a while to like be acclimated to it. So that's also why I don't like found footage. But on the other hand, my favorite format of fiction is actually the short story, anthology. So it's like I have these two competing like things here. My dislike of found footage and my love of anthology.
So overall, I think the first movie's good. I would even watch the first movie again. I think it's got more clever shit in it. The second movie has more money to play with, and you could see it. Yeah. But it doesn't add up to much.
No. And I would not watch it again. After getting used to the found footage thing, I had a lot of fun watching these movies, but I actually would not watch either of them again.
Okay.
I think it was a good experiment, and in the moment, I had a good time. I even watched VHS 2 with my partner who hates horror movies, and she also enjoyed it. But then, of course, if I was talking to her about it, like the way you and I are analyzing it, I think we both agree that, like, oh, these stories suck.
They really crumble under any critical scrutiny.
Yeah, it's just like eating like something sweet, and you're enjoying that you're eating something sweet, but then later on you're like, actually, this is Necco wafers.
You know, that's what horror is like. I mean, in a lot of ways, like the Jason movies, we were talking about them earlier. They're not good.
No.
You know what I mean? But they're fun. Some are better than others. Some are worse than others. Some have crazy performances. Some have really good kills. Some have good shocks. You know, horror, it's very affective. You know what I mean? Like, kind of like the way comedies make you laugh. Horror is, I don't know, it's like a roller coaster. I don't know what. It exercises your fight or flight in a safe way. Yeah, exactly. So maybe next year we'll talk about something better. I mean, I like VHS, but next year we can, I don't know.
I mean, if that's what you want to do, you want to watch something good?
Yeah, next year we're going to watch VHS, the Snapchat show. So that's good. We'll tune in for that. All right, Nadia, thank you so much for being here. I'm so happy to have you. I'm so happy to see you.
Thank you, Mike. I'm so happy to be here.
This has been Halloween 2019 Act 4. I just want to thank the audience for being with us all month. I hope you've enjoyed these 4 Halloween specials. This ended up being more of an undertaking than I thought it was going to be. But I've loved it. I love Halloween. I love making episodes for you. And thanks for being here. I know we haven't had a normal, regular Pop Culture Man Children episode in a while. One that has news and the chill sesh and obsessions. But next week, we're going to get back to like the normal format. And we're looking ahead. There's going to be obviously a Christmas episode. There'll be an episode on Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. So there's stuff coming up. We end every episode by quoting the great Animal from the Muppets, from the Electric Mayhem Band. Go bye-bye.
Go bye-bye.